Hello my lovelies and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I made my wand holder. This is the wand holder that I made last week with the backstitch fabric. This one has already capped the pre-order, so keep an eye out for retail in the backstitch group. So when I posted this on Facebook, there were a lot of questions about where I got my pattern, and it's a pattern that I've created in my mind because I needed something to help my kids hold their own wands when we're at Universal, so I don't have to shove them in my own small little crossbody. So I wanted to make this way they can wear it in the park and be cool looking while doing so. So I came up with this pattern that I'm actually sharing with you free, so you can all enjoy it. I'm assuming it can be used for other stuff. We have our wands in it, but you could put, I don't know, any fairy wands for Disney if you have them. This opening is about 2 by 2, so whatever is smaller than approximately 2 by 2 here would work great with this pattern. I call it a wand holder because I designed it specifically for wands, but I mean it can be used for other stuff. So I'm going to show you in this video the tutorial for the pattern that I've attached to the description of the video. I have two formats there. There's a letter format that you'll have to print, and then there's a projector file if you're using projectors. So if this is something that you're interested in finding out how to create, or just want to hear me talk and spend an hour-ish or so of your day with me right now, then make sure to keep on watching. Alright, so let's go over the pattern pieces and the cut fabric, and I'll make quick notes as we go along. So after you printed your pattern, you will have a big long piece that is for the lining, and that I'm using for this tutorial waterproof canvas for the lining, because one, I love it, two, it doesn't require any interfacing, so less steps for me. If you want your wand holder to be one solid fabric, so without the color blocking part, you see here I have two different prints. So if you want it one solid, you can use this piece also to cut your main fabric. Just keep in mind, if you're using vinyl, you need 18-inch rolls minimum. You cannot use for this piece 14 or 13 or 12 inches rolls. So make sure that you do have 18-inch rolls before you start cutting. I will be doing, even though I do have 18-inch roll that I'm using, I will be doing the color block option. This way I show you that extra step in the video. If you're using the solid, you'll just skip over that part of the tutorial. So I cut this lining from this fabric, from this pattern piece. Make sure that you do open your pattern pieces in Adobe Reader. I've included a 1-inch square on all pages, so you can double check that you're printing actual size. For the main, I'm using this amazing Accio print from Sweet and Charm Fabrics. It's their last time running this print, and now they're running it in vinyl, in waterproof canvas, and in a regular canvas. So make sure you check them out. I'm going to link Sweet and Charmed website and Facebook group in the description of the video. It's absolutely gorgeous. It's so cute. I love this print. My kids had a shirt a few years back with them. They're obviously outgrown it by now. So you need two of these, and when you're using the color block option, make sure that your vinyl is at least 13 inches. Most designers do offer 13-14 inches rolls, so this would work fine. Obviously, if you are using fabric by the yard, then you don't have these issues. But I do prefer this pattern in vinyl, to be honest with you. And then you need the top color blocking part. You need two of the main print, and you also need for everything on the outer part at least, you need woven interfacing. I opted not to use woven interfacing because if the thicker you get the fabric, the harder will be to turn. 2, I want to test the quality of this vinyl because it's the first time using this vinyl. And 3, I don't need any extra thickness. So I am skipping the interfacing altogether because the lining is waterproof canvas, so it doesn't need it anyways. And the vinyl, I want to test it without to see how it performs. If you're sure of the quality of your vinyl, like this backstitch one, it's the backstitch textured vinyl, and I have not used any kind of interfacing and I had 0 issues with it. So I know the quality of this vinyl and I'm confident in not using interfacing. If you're not sure, or if you're using cotton woven, definitely interface it with woven interfaces. I recommend for this project, I would recommend the Geeky Fuse Poly Soft SF101, and even the Geeky Fuse Cotton Soft may work, but I feel like Poly Soft is a little thinner, which would work, make it easier to turn the back when we get to that step. And lastly, you need your flap. Remember that this is on fold. Make sure that your graphic with a directional print goes along the grain usually, so make sure that your graphic goes with the arrows that I've included on every single page. So this will be your flap. You also need your strap, and this is I'm using this watercolor, beautiful watercolor webbing that is 1 inch from Backstitch, and you need it depending on your size between 50 to 56 inches, so you make it adjustable. And then you need 2 4-inch of the same webbing. This will be for your connectors. For the hardware, you need 1 spring snap that you'll be using it to close the flap. It will look like this when it's attached. Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts has spring snaps if you're looking to get some. So this is the spring snap. And then you need 1 slider for sure. So strap slider. I'm using a 1-inch one because that's what I have for my webbing. And then you either need 2 rectangle rings, you can see on the notes on the pattern, which will make the strap fixed, it's not removable. Or if you want to make it removable, and I'm going to do that in this tutorial, you need 2 D-rings and 2 swivel clasps. And this will make the strap removable, so you can use it for a different project afterwards. Or if you want to wear this around your waist instead of crossbody, this will, because it can move, the fabric can move, instead of staying like this, it can move like this. It makes it easier to wear around your waist, like you would a fanny pack, but it's just a wand holder. So I'm going to do this for this project to show you how I do it. And that's pretty much it. You need the confidence that I've mentioned and a good state of mind, and I'm sure you have both of those. So we are ready to get started with sewing. We're going to start by creating the color block outer part. So grab your 2 color block pieces. So 1, 2, lay them right sides together, and I did put a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance on this pattern. So follow that throughout. The only exception I'll show you when we top stitch. And I'm sewing this using Wizardry Stitchery and Crafts Tex 80, and I'm using the gray in both the bobbin and the main needle and the needle, because I want you to see the stitching, and also because I was lazy to change it. So I could look professional and say because I want you to see the stitching, or I can tell you the truth and it's because I was too lazy to change it with something else. I figured maybe I should use yellow in the bobbin. Nah. Okay, so you sewn this together, and now you want to press this open if you're using cotton woven, or you can just finger press it open. I like to top stitch with 1/8 of an inch away on both sides. If you prefer to top stitch up or top stitch down, you can definitely do that. I want to top stitch both ways. And again, this would look very cute if you were using two different prints, but because I wanted just this Achio print on the wand holder, I've color blocked it, but I've color blocked it with the same fabric. And this also applies if you're using like 13-14 inch rolls. You can use the color block option because it's not tall enough. Okay, so this is what it would look like from the front and from the back. And we're going to do the exact same thing with on the other side. Also, because this print has like only 2 houses vertically, I color blocked it with the 3rd house. And I just realized my house, which is Ravenclaw, is not even on this one. Oops. Oh, it's not anywhere. I should have fussy cut the pattern, but I didn't. I guess this will become my kid's wand holder. Okay, I'm doing the same thing on the other side. If you're not doing the color block option, obviously you'll be skipping this step. And top stitching. I tend to forget to increase my length for top stitching, but hey, we're humans. We do our best. But this time I remembered. So you should have right now 2 pattern pieces like this, and from this point on we're all going to be doing the same thing, whether you did the color blocking or not. So place them right sides together, and we'll be stitching along the 2 vertical lines. Make sure that you match your openings there. And we're stitching with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, then you want to stitch on the other side, same thing. Okay, and now lastly we're going to stitch this bottom like so. So we're not stitching where the corners are, we're just stitching the 2 long lines and the bottom. Okay, so up next we need to box the corner to create that bottom flap, the bottom part. So for that you want to put your finger in the opening there and just pull it like this. Open the seam allowances. You want to put a clip there, you can. Like so, on both sides. So this is what we call boxing the corner. So you're going from a 2D back to a 3D one just by boxing the corners. So this is what it looks like from the outside. And we're going to stitch those again with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, making sure that the sides stay together. And you do a straight stitch as best as you can get it. It looks like it's not super straight. I might fix that. So far this vinyl is performing beautifully with no interfacing. We'll see when we turn it. Yeah, this one, the first one, is not super straight. I went crooked on as I was veering off, so I'm going to redo this. No big deal. I'm not striving for perfection, but if I see it's an obvious issue, I can fix it as I go along. Okay, much better. Right now you should have something like this on the bottom. So which brings us to the hardest, if you ask me, the hardest part of the pattern. We're going to need to turn this tube right side out. Okay? If you have a tiny hand, you can definitely, which I don't really. So if I get stuck in here, I need somebody to come rescue me. You can grab it and fold, and my hands are not tiny. But if you have tiny hands, you can do this with one arm. If not, you will have to push from the other side. This is what I did with my backstitch one. But I think now I'm gonna get my hands stuck in here. So to me, honestly, this turning part was the hardest part of the pattern. But you're turning the vinyl only once, so no worries about having to deal with this again. And this is what I was saying earlier. If you're using a thick vinyl, like if you're using the backstitch smooth, I would definitely not add interfacing to it. I got it. And then I want to show you a little trick that I learned while doing this. Okay, so we've turned it. Like so, and we need to push the corner. So if you have a poker to push the corner that's long enough, you should definitely use that. I'll show you what I'm going to use, because if you bought 18-inch rolls of vinyl from Backstitch, of the smooth or the textured one, this puppy here, it came like rolled like this, it's not open. So this puppy here will help you pull and help it keep its shape. So See, I'm using that roll to pull out the bottom. And we're going to be using this later on to help it keep its shape. How cool is that? So see, one unopened roll of vinyl will help you work with this. Okay, so this is what it would look like. And the bottom should be square-ish right now. Okay, so for the next step, I could say it's optional. Honestly, I wouldn't do this without this step, but if you don't want to do the next step, you could skip it. It will just look differently. And it will not look as square. So what I like to do right now is where the corners meet here, I like to fold it. If you're using cotton woven, then you can definitely press this. I can't because I'm using vinyl. So I like to put a few clips on a straight edge. And then the same thing here. So now I can basically just fold this like so, press it down. I have my seam inside here, okay? So with the seam pressed, I'm going to do the same thing on all sides. Put a few clips to hold it. I'm basically doing the steps to give it more of that square look instead of a tube, you know? And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Again, press that seam in like an accordion. All the way here to where you've boxed your corners. I'll show you a close-up. Once I spin them all so you can see what I did. If you want to have the look that I've showed you, don't skip this step. If you're not interested in having a squarish look and you just want the holder itself, I mean, you can skip this step. Okay, so this is what it looks like right now. It looks kind of flat with the seam inside here, okay? Don't worry, it's not gonna stay like this. Okay, I'll hover over here a little bit so you can take a good look of how it looks like inside. So if you open this, there's that seam, the side seams. Okay, so now what you want to do, you want to set your machine for the top stitching function, which means a longer stitch length. And you want to go ahead and stitch along this fold each of the 4 ones. So take one fold and with 1/8 of an inch away or less, if you can get it less, good. If not, 1/8 of an inch is fine. You want to top stitch this fold. Don't go more than 1/8 of an inch because you don't want to remove the space inside. You want to just create that boxed look. Okay, and when you go to the bottom, if you don't want to have the look of back stitching on the bottom, you can just tie it off for a clear look, like leave longer tails and then just tie it off. I don't care one way or the other, honestly. But I know some people prefer the clean look of a tie-off. I did it just so I can show you, but the rest will be top stitch. Okay, so this is one. Then you're going to go ahead and do the other fold, same thing. 1/8 of an inch away. And of course you'll repeat this 4 times. And I stop right where I have my box corner starting. Okay, this is what it looks like. Okay. Let's keep going with the remaining 2 sides. And go slow so you don't like veer your top stitching. And last one. Make sure you keep all the other sides away. You're only sewing through this one side. Done. So for now, we're going to set aside the top part. But while you're setting it aside, what I recommend you do, because right now it looks pretty flat, right? Because we've made these corners, it looks rather flat, you know, it flattens on the side. So what I recommend, while you set it on the side to work on your lining, stuff the roll of vinyl in it. See, and this will help keep its shape. Once we add the lining, it's gonna be easier, but right now, especially since mine is not even interfaced, saw a little thread. Okay, so put your roll of vinyl like this in it. Okay, and set it aside. Up next, we'll be preparing the lining. So take your 2 pieces of lining, place them right sides together, and stitch along the sides and the bottom, leaving an opening this time around. You're going to leave an opening to turn the bag. And I highly encourage you to leave a large opening. Makes it much easier to turn the bag. So I'm going to start by stitching about 2 inches at the top and back stitching. So now it's working out great that I kept my gray thread, because you can see it better in the video. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and stitch about 2 inches from the bottom, leaving the other part open. And you only need one side with the opening. So for the other side, you can definitely stitch all the way down. Okay, so let's start on the other side. Now we're going to stitch the bottom, just like we did on the main print, and then box the corner. So let's sew the bottom. So now you should have something that looks like this. Okay, see, no stitches here. Only here, here, and here. So now we're going to box the corners just like we did before by opening up here. And sewing a straight stitch. I do recommend keeping your seam allowance open for the lining if you're able to, because it will help reduce the bulk. Okay, same thing on the other side. We're opening up and stitching, flatten, and stitch. Your lining is done. What you have to do right now is prepare, and we'll do that together. We'll be preparing the flap and the connectors. Take your lining, that should look something like this, and set it aside for now. Let's work on the flap. So your flap should be one rectangle like so. Take your 1/4 inch double-sided tape. I use exclusively the geeky tape, the geeky double-sided tape, the wizardry double-sided tape, and I use the non-water soluble one. So you want to place 1/4 inch tape along each of the long length, like so. Okay, peel it off, and then you want to fold 1/4 inch on each side. So you're basically folding along that double-sided tape. I'm eyeballing 1/4 inch with the tape. If you're not comfortable eyeballing it, you can definitely take your ruler and draw a line 1/4 inch away from the edge. So you'll know exactly where your this edge will be. Okay. Once you've pressed it, it should look like this from the outside, so no more raw edges, and like this from the inside. Now I'm taking my 1/2 inch tape and I'm going to put a little strip just as a helping hand on halfway, about 6.5 inches of double-sided tape, and just placing it on one side, like so. Okay? So now bring your other side and matching the raw edges on this side, just fold it down. Okay, and this will be your flap. You'll see that from one side, which is the outer part, you have the print like that, and if you flip it, the print will be upside down, and that's okay, because when you open it, you want the print correctly. So what we're going to do next, we're going to top stitch all around with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. This is definitely not a difficult pattern by any means. Okay, so this is your flap. Let's set that aside for now and work on our connector pieces. So take your 4-inch, the two 4-inch connector pieces and your D-rings or rectangle rings, and you're going to slide this here, and you want to stitch close to the top. Or if you prefer to rivet it, you can definitely rivet it. Okay, so one connector is done. We'll do the same thing for the other connector. And this is what it should look like. time to put the bag together and watch magic happen. So for this step you will need your main piece and your flap. So you should have, right now this has 4 sides, right? The 2 sides have the side seam, so we'll call that the side part, and then you'll have a front and a back. You pick whichever is the front and a back. For me, I've used 3 houses on the front, so this is my front and this is the back because it's like random. I didn't care about pattern placement for the back. So this is my front, which means on the back side, you want to take your flap and place it right sides together. So right sides together, this will go like this. This is my right side. I know because it says Gryffindor here. So this is my right side and I'm placing this like so. So make sure that you place it right sides together. On the top here, you should have a little bit, I've left in the pattern, a little bit on the side seams for where we did that top stitching. So center it and stitch it down. Again, on the back part of the pattern. Okay, so your flap is like this on the back. Okay, now we're going to work on the sides. The sides, again, are the ones that have the seam in them. So take your connector and place it about 1/4 of an inch up. About 1/4 of an inch up from the edge. So like so. Okay, I didn't flush it with the edge, it's a little up because it's gonna hold better. And then stitch it down with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Centered. The reason I'm doing this with 1/4 of an inch up is because some webbing tend to unravel, and this will give it extra hold, especially once after we top stitch it. Okay, so you should have something looking like this. Okay, and we'll do the same thing on the other side on this part. About 1/4 of an inch out and centered. Okay, so it should look like this. You want to take your lining. The lining right now is wrong side out. Let's keep it like that. And you want to slide your main vinyl part inside. This way the lining and the vinyl are right sides together. And you also want to make sure that the side seams are on the side seam. So right now, you see, you have your side seam here, and you want to open that up, match it with the side seam inside here, and you can add some clips. Okay, and same thing for the other side. you can pin it in place. You will now sew all around it with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Especially go slow where the connectors are and the flap, because you have a few layers there. Okay. So right now you should have something that looks like this. Okay. So you have your connectors a little higher up. You have your opening here. Like this, okay? Up next, we'll flip the bag through this opening here, and see, because we've left a big opening, it's so easy to turn now. So easy. Look how easy. No muscle needed anywhere, because we've left a huge opening there. And we've already flipped the vinyl. Just poke your corners so you have a nice crisp bottom. So the bottom would look like this. Okay, so this is what the bottom should look like. Nice and crisp. And now you want to stitch this close by folding a 1/4 of an inch inside and adding a few clips. You can hand stitch this closed if you want. Not me. You know how I feel about hand stitching. If you're using quilting cotton, you can definitely press this and it's going to be easier to stitch. You can press waterproof canvas with a pressing cloth, but I just prefer to put pins if I don't have to. Okay, so this is the inside opening, and we're going to stitch along the edge as close to the edge as possible. Go. Okay, so it should be something like this. Now we have to push the lining inside, and again this is a step where your roll of vinyl could come in handy. If you can get it to go inside like this. It's stiff because it's waterproof canvas, but once I like the look better than with quilting cotton because it's stiff, but it does make this step a little bit harder. use whatever tool you have to push this lining in. And if you have a better suggestion than what I'm doing right now with the roll of vinyl, definitely leave it in the comments below to help others. There's only so much you can get in with your hands, because then my hand, at least my hand, won't fit any further. That's why I need a tool. I initially wanted to make this, instead of like a 2x2 opening, a 1x1 opening. I can't imagine pushing the lining in that opening. That's why I made it bigger, and I said it would work for more than one wand. But it will not fit the Ollivander box that comes with the wand. Just so you know, if you plan on going to the park and buying the wand at the park, the box itself is pretty big. So the box will not fit. It's not big enough. The box is bigger in itself. Okay, so we're almost there. Come on. I don't want to bend my vinyl roll either. And you need something to push the lining inside. There. Oh, almost there. A few inches. I can see that at the end. Come on. Excuse me. Just a few inches here. And we are done. Awesome. You did it. See? Can be done. Okay, let's top stitch around here, so all around. We are almost done. We just have the strap to create, the adjustable strap, and then we're done. Okay. So because we added the lining, it does stay a little better. I'm going to put the roll of vinyl inside, like I did before, and just set it aside. So while I work on creating the straps, make sure it's all the way. Yes. Okay. So while I work on creating the straps, I'm gonna set this aside with the roll of vinyl in it. Oh, it's so cute. Let's see. Grab your swivel clips and your slider, and we're going to take one side, put the swivel clip in it. My swivel clips, you may notice, are a little smaller. These are, I think, 3/4 of an inch instead of 1 inch. I just simply ran out of 1 inch swivel clips, and I used whatever I had because I wanted the gunmetal print. So it is what it is. It's not that bad, but that's why you might see it a little smaller in the video. You should use 1 inch if you have it on hand. Okay, and then so this is what will look like on one side. If you're not doing the swivel clip, instead of doing this part, it will be attached directly to the bag. Okay, so now you're taking the other side and your slider. You go up one side, down the other. Then you put your swivel clip, and then you go again up the same side, here, and down that side. Oops, make sure that it's not turned, like it turned on me here. So again, I'm doing this again, up on this side. Your webbing should not be twisted, and down on the other side, and we're going to close this here. But first let me seal this in because it's raveling. Okay, so now I'm going to fold it about 1/4 of an inch, and then 1 inch here, and stitch. Again, you can also rivet this if you prefer instead of sewing. This is what it looks like on the other side, and your straps are done. And you can reuse this strap for a different project if you want. So now you can just simply clip it here. And lastly, we have to add the spring snaps, if you want to add them. Okay, so for that, I'm going to first do my little top stitching here that I did on these sides. The top stitching, I'm going to do it here. So I'm going to fold the flap and see kind of where it folds here. Sorry. Okay, so I'm taking the flap and I'm folding it. If you want to leave it like this, so it's like curved here, that's fine. I like to have it boxed. So what I like to do, I like to fold it. Be cautious that you have 4 layers of vinyl. If you're not comfortable top stitching 4 layers of vinyl, don't do this step. So I like to fold it about 1/4 of an inch here. You see? Right here, 1/4 of an inch. And then do my top stitching, like I did on the edges. So just about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. To create that more of a boxed look. Once again, optional if you want to add it. Okay, so this is the back. Now we have that flap that's boxed. So now you want to go on this side and around where it meets the fold here. See? So here, where it folds on the front, you want to do another one of these top stitching. Again, only on the flap. So take the flap away. And about 1/8 of an inch away from the fold, you top stitch. Just to give you an estimate, it should be about 2 inches away from the first fold, because that's the circumference of this. Okay, so see, now it looks boxed. Instead of being like a folded over, it looks more like a box. So then you will have to place your snap. Depending on the tools that you're using, you want to put the snap higher or lower. I personally prefer it a little lower. So I'm going to take my marker pen and mark where I want my snap. And then, using a puncher, I'm going to put a little hole in my spring snap. I'm eyeballing it in the center. If you don't want to eyeball it like I am, just do it the right way and measure so it's centered. Okay, so now, with that hole, so I put a little hole on here, okay? You can see it right here. So using that hole, I'm going to mark where I want my other side of the snap. So through the hole, I'm going to put a marking on the main. Okay, so now I know my other hole will be here, because I can see my marking. So this is what I was saying, depending on the tools you have, you won't be able to go too low. Okay. And I'm ready for the last step, which is the spring snaps. So for the spring snaps, you have 4 pieces. Okay, on the top one, on the flap, you'll put the one that has the pretty side, this one, and the one that has like the hole, not the 2 male and or whatever these are called. So not these 2, these will go on the main part, the other 2 go on the flap. So on the outside of the flap, you're going to put, okay, let me zoom in a little bit. So on the outside of the flap, you're going to put this part. Here. And this part, the spring part, right here. Okay? And using the tools that either came with your machine, with your spring snaps, or you've purchased separately, you're going to give it one big hammering. Okay, so it looks like this. You see? And now on the inside of the bag, where you put the other half, you take the longer piece, so this one, and you go through the bag inside here, and you push it out through that opening, like so. You see? And then you take your top, which is the shorter one, and you place it on top, like so. Okay, and now I'm putting my hammering with the pointy part up, and I'm making sure by using my feel that it goes where it's supposed to. Okay, and then using the tool that has the hole here. So not the pointy one. The pointy one is for the spring. The whole one is for the other side. You place it on top and you give it one big hammering and you're all done. This is it. Take your tools. And now, bam, your closure is done. See? And this is it. You've created your custom wand holder in your favorite fabric print that you can wear to the parks or wherever you're taking your magic wands. These are my kids' wands that they allowed me to borrow. And there you have it. Done. So this can be worn as a crossbody. So if you make the strap longer, oops, I'm trying to zoom you out now. So if you make the strap longer, you wear it as a crossbody. If you prefer, well, my outfit today is very Disney, so not quite, there you go. Or if you prefer to wear it as a belt, you just tighten the, oh, and now you have your wand at your belt, ready to put the spells in diagonally. My kids said this would work for something Star Wars, for Hollywood studios, for their little, but I think it's too short. I don't know. What do I know about swords? Okay, so this is worn around your middle. Ha! I'm being silly now. All right, my friends, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed this free pattern. Definitely encourage people to check out the tutorial if you can. While the pattern is free, I would ask you to not share it, and do encourage people to come and get it directly from my channel. That will definitely help me a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and if you do make this, please tag me or use hashtag MCR Wand Holder on Instagram or on Facebook, because I do want to see them. I want to see all your creations. It makes my heart so happy to know that I could share something with you that you actually made and enjoyed and loved. So again, this fabric, this vinyl is from Sweet and Charmed. Go grab it now while you can, because once pre-order is done, it's done. And I will see you back in my next one. Mwah!